Good morning. We are going to go ahead and get started. Today, our virtual program is a continuation of a bit of a series called Putting Your Tax Dollars to Work. Our focus today is on federal contract data. The previous Putting Your Tax Dollars to Work focused on examining Form 990 that can access from any 501c organization. The purpose of this series is to get folks more familiar with the federal databases and publicly available information that you can access because you pay taxes. All right. My name is Hadiza Saadu. I am the Small Business and Nonprofit Specialist here at the Kansas City Public Library. Let's go ahead and cover some of the learning objectives here. And we've got 3 learning objectives for our time today. Our first learning objective is to understand the purpose of a database called the System for Awards Management, or SAM.gov. We are also aiming to look at different ways to search and access federal contract data to allow people to get more familiar with what that actually looks like. And last but not least, we are identifying related federal database websites that provide detailed information about specific contracts. So, what is the System for Award Management? First thing is this is an official website of the US government. And as such, what it does is it consolidates information from other federal websites, uh, including CFDA.gov, WDOL.gov, FBO.gov, and FPDS.gov. Now, for these 4 other websites that I've just listed, the only one that we're really going to talk about in depth is going to be the last one, FPDS.gov, or the Federal Procurement Data System. This website is one where you can access more granular, detailed information about specific contracts. SAM.gov itself also allows you as a business, as an entity, to register to do business with the US government, meaning that you can win contracts with the US government to earn income. SAM.gov also allows you to find information from different items that we are going to get into more detail with that are the following: assistance listings, wage determinations, contract opportunities, contract data reports, entity registration, and exclusion records. Additionally, SAM.gov allows you to view and submit bio-preferred and service contract reports. And I am sure that anybody watching is scratching their head saying, what on earth does bio-preferred mean? You might be able to guess what service contract report means, but what on earth is bio-preferred? We will get a little bit into that later. And last but not least, SAM.gov allows you to access publicly available awards data from data extracts, and system accounts. However, this is a more advanced use of the website and the tools available within the website. All right, let's get into some jargon because we all love jargon, don't we? Ah, For those of you watching who may already have a business registered through the Secretary of State, you may be familiar with the term entity. In the context of doing business with the federal government, entity means something a little bit more expansive than what we're referring to when it comes time to actually register a business. So when it comes time to register a business with the Secretary of State, when we talk about entity, we're meaning a state entity. So that means like an LLC, a corporation, or a nonprofit. Um, there's another entity that goes with that, which is called the tax entity. We're not worried about that today. What we're worried about is what the US government means by the word entity. So when you are conducting business with the US government, an entity really just refers to prime contractors, organizations, or individuals applying for assistance awards, anyone that's receiving a loan, sole proprietors, corporations, partnerships, and any US federal government agencies that are desiring to do business with the US government. So that's a bit more of a broader definition. And that's important because you can fall into one of these definitions, whether you are essentially a civilian business or you're an entity with the government. Uh, Entity registrations. What this means in a nutshell is if you're going to do business with the US federal government, you may register an entity through the SAM.gov registration process. If you are actively registered, that means that you have the ability to apply for federal grants and loans and to bid on government contracts. So essentially, entity registration just means that you are officially being identified by the US federal government as a potential partner in doing business as an entity. Exclusions. We can maybe kind of guess as to what that has to do with. An exclusion refers to any entity that is excluded from receiving federal contracts, subcontracts, and certain types of federal financial and non-financial assistance or benefits. Active exclusion, meaning that your entity registration means you're excluded. It means that your entity is debarred, suspended, proposed for debarment, or otherwise declared ineligible for the award of contracts by any federal agency. So that just means that you could be registered as an entity, but you are excluded from doing business with the federal government for any of those listed reasons. Entity reporting. Contractors are sometimes required to submit periodic reports on contracts if those contracts meet certain criteria. Two types of contracts that have required reporting, and we did kind of touch on this, are service contracts and bio-preferred contracts. All right, so what on earth are those? I know I've said that already. Let's get into some more definitions with the jargon that you will see if you are browsing the SAM.gov website. Service contract reporting, or SCRs, you'll see that listed as SCR through the SAM.gov website. These are contractors who receive cost reimbursement, time and materials, and labor hour service contracts and orders that meet or surpass a certain threshold. These these types of contractors have to report information about the amount that they invoice, the amount of labor hours that have been expended, and the amount of subcontractor labor hours that have been expended. So the federal government actually uses these reports and relies on these reports to help build up a nationwide inventory database. Bio-preferred reporting refers to the reporting that contractors who are awarded service or construction contracts uh, of bio-based products in the execution of said contracts. So any type of entity that is doing anything that has to do with the handling of biologically based materials um, is going to be classified under the bio preferred reporting. All right. Now we're going to get into some more detailed information about some of the things that you'll see on the SAM.gov website. First is an assistance listing. In order to really kind of understand what is going on when an entity seeks to do business with the federal government or any level of government, um, we need to understand that the US federal government does deliver some assistance to the public through projects, services, and other activities. So that is what we are meaning by an assistance listing, or that's essentially what we're meaning by the term assistance is projects, services, and other activities. So an assistance listing can fall in any of these following sectors. So those sectors include education, healthcare, research, infrastructure development, and economic development. So the forms of the assistance listing can uh, take shape as a grant, a loan, a scholarship, insurance, and more. These are all financial tools that uh, do work to increase the revenue bottom line of a small business or a larger business. So SAM.gov does provide public descriptions of federal assistance listings, and these federal assistance listings are available to federally recognized indigenous tribal governments, colonies, also known as territories and possessions of the US, domestic public, quasi-public, and private profit and nonprofit organizations and institutions, specialized groups and individuals, and state and local governments. Any entity who is looking for federal assistance can use SAM.gov to browse listings and do preliminary planning to get a sense of the scope of the options. Uh, Linked in this paragraph uh, is the actual database within SAM.gov to search for assistance listings, which we can take a look at right here. If it will come up. There we go. This is the link to the assistance listings search in SAM.gov, and this is just what it looks like. So as you can see here, you can do a keyword search here. Hopefully this can help you think of more concretely what actually is an assistance listing. As we see here, the example that they have is school lunches. So going back to kind of the broader definition of what an assistance listing is, again, understanding that the federal government does provide some assistance to the public, school lunches, especially if we are talking about free and reduced school lunch, we know that the federal government does subsidize uh, that type of assistance to the public. So this is just what this looks like. We're not going to do a search in this, but this is how you go and about finding the information about specific assistance listings through SAM.gov. And now we will go back to our presentation. All right. Understand that each assistance listing has a unique identifier. That unique identifier is a 5-digit number called the assistance listing number. So if you have found a specific assistance listing, make sure you jot that assistance listing. I think I said assistance living. Make sure that you jot down the assistance listing number so that way you can go back and reference it later. An AL number basically lets a user access the direct grant opportunity listing on grants.gov, another associated website, or to follow up with the specific agency's contact information that is provided through the assistance listing database. Okay. All right. What is a wage determination? On the homepage of SAM.gov, you will also see a term called wage determination. And there's a lot of information that SAM.gov does provide about what this means. But broadly speaking, a wage determination is a legally mandated wage rate or fringe benefit that must be paid by federal contractors to their employees based on the county where the work is performed. The U.S. Department of Labor determines wage rates and fringe benefits in any given area and is set as the minimum to be paid by contractors and subcontractors to mechanics, tradespeople, and other laborers that are hired through federal contracts. So there is legislation associated with this, of course, as it is legally mandated. Current regulations under 22.4013 USC Chapter 31, Subchapter 4, called Wage Rate Requirements in Construction, which is previously known as the Davis-Bacon Act, provide for the following. Contracts that are totaling more than $2,000 for construction, alteration, or repair of public buildings or public works within the United States must contain a clause that no laborer or mechanic employed directly on site shall receive less than the prevailing wage rates as determined by the U.S. Secretary of Labor. This is just a legalese way of saying that if you have a contract that is more than $2,000 that is supposed to be for public consumption, public use, or construction of any kind with the US government, anybody that is working on that shall not receive less than the prevailing wage rate that is determined by the US Secretary of Labor. The Davis-Bacon Act was actually first passed in 1931, and the intention of that legislation was meant to protect local communities and workers from economic disruption caused by unfair competition arising from non-local contractors in obtaining federal construction contracts. And they would do this unfair practice by underbidding the local wage levels, hence the need for that law. Also know that the regulations are always updating and changing based off of the locale. Below on the bottom of this slide, we've got a link to the knowledge base at fsd.gov, which I'll talk about a little bit more later, that provides the latest Davis-Bacon Act and or Service Contract Act wage determinations. So that is there for reference for you as far as just wanting to know more about wage determinations or trying to figure out what the wage determination is in a specific area. Right? And the namesake of our virtual program today, contract data, contract opportunities. What about those? Let's talk a little bit about those. So what exactly is a contract opportunity? Basically, a contract opportunity is a listing opportunity that totals more than $25,000. In a contract opportunity that you find on SAM.gov, it will include a snapshot of the proposed contract actions. So what is to be carried out as far as the labor and the deliverables in a contract. In addition to that, it provides kind of a broad view of the solicitations and associated information that the public is able to access electronically. So entities that are registered in SAM.gov may compete to be awarded federal contracts. So that is the advantage if you are a small business that is already registered through the Secretary of State. Getting registered through SAM.gov puts you in the running to compete for federally awarded contracts and to earn more income. Contract data reports. What about those? Those previously, they are pulled directly and available through the Federal Procurement Data System, which we have talked about a little bit, or FPDS. You can actually access fpds.gov, which is linked to find information about specific contracts. Um, so again, from this older database, fpds.gov, sam.gov is able to then produce 4 types of reports. And those reports are available through the data bank, which I have unfortunately not hyperlinked. It was hyperlinked. For those that will be watching later on, I will make sure that this link is hyperlinked. That way you don't have to go ahead and search for that data bank. But when you do access the data bank, you will be able to access 3 types of reports. I'm going to talk about 4 types of reports that are available, but only 3 are available to the public. The first, and one that we are going to take a look at shortly, is called the standard report. The standard report has information about contract activity, and these types of reports are formatted for both the public and the government. So any layperson can access this and expect to be able to understand the information at their own pace. This type of data can be filtered and sorted. Next, we have static reports. These are reports that are prepared on a fiscal year basis, and these are provided to the public, and they are also available for download, but they are only available as prepared. Administrative reports. These ones are actually configurable, but these are only available to federal users that are assigned to appropriate roles. So that's not available to the public. And last but not least, ad hoc reports allow for data field selection from the database to run a query. So this is for those members of the public or not who have more advanced data skills and more advanced database talking skills, where they already have, the know-how to access that data and um, manipulate that data to draw conclusions and to be able to connect with other databases. So again, this is an advanced feature. It's only recommended really for users who already have that kind of knowledge, but just know it is available to the public. If that is a skill that you're already working on developing, know that that's there for you, and the sky is the limit there. All right. Now we're finally ready to go ahead and take a look at a couple standard reports through SAM.gov. So what we're going to do here, for the sake of our example here, is we're going to actually focus on the organization, which is also an entity. It's a little bit confusing, but it's the same thing as entity. In this example, what we're going to use is the Department of Agriculture as the contracting agency. The dates that we're going to focus on are January 1st of this year through the present, June 12th, 2024. For reference, the organization code for the Department of Agriculture is 1200. We are not going to worry about the section here called Contracting Office Region because we're just casually browsing. But if you do know the Contracting Office Region, you can select that from the drop-down available. Okay, let's go ahead and do it. All right. So I am now in the section of SAM.gov called the data bank. And this is the section of SAM.gov that allows me to access reports. So we have reports available for assistance listings, contract opportunities, contract data, entity information, and something called federal hierarchy. We haven't talked about that, and we're not really going to cover that today, but federal hierarchy just refers to pretty much the nomenclature uh, that corresponds to the federal agencies. So, one example of that is the Department of Defense houses the different military agencies of the Navy and the Air Force. So those two are sub agencies of the larger agency of the Department of Defense. That's all that is meant by federal hierarchy. We have this selected for standard report type. And as we can see here, we've got more information to refamiliarize ourselves with what a standard report actually is. One thing that we do need to make note of here is that when you do actually want to run a report, you will have to have an account. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and sign in since I already have an account. It's very easy to create an account. You'll just use your address and make sure that it's you because it is a federal crime to pretend that you're somebody else when accessing a government database. Hmm, you don't need to be seeing my password. Well, now you saw it. Unfortunate. I will change my password after this. I'm having issues. I do have this open on another browser, so we will just use that. So they are definitely concerned with security as they should be since they are the federal government. And so we've got two-factor identification here. So when you do create an account, anytime you log in, they are going to send you a code to your preferred method of contact. So I have to put that in. All right. Now that I'm in, I'm able to access different reports. And so I am going to kind of browse through the different types of standard reports that you can access. Um, Starting with, we've got awards by contractor type. Let's take a look at what this is. Okay, let's see. Up top, we've got a description. This report displays the dollars and actions for awards by contractor type. The report also allows drilling down to the PIID level. So again, what we said for our example is we are going to use the date range from the beginning of this year, which would be January 1 to present. And we are interested in the Department of Agriculture, which we know is code 1200. So when you actually, you don't necessarily, if you're just trying to casually browse the different agencies, um, you can just click into the search box and look at the scroll down. And as we see here, the Department of Agriculture is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the list with code 1200. And like I said before, we're not going to be concerned with the contracting office region. So now that we have submitted enough information into our search query, we're going to go ahead and execute. One thing to note is that you can both save, clear, and then export any results from a search. First thing we're going to do is execute. All right. So what we're seeing here is a little spreadsheet that has 2 rows, as we can see, and 56 total columns that we will have to scroll our mouse over to see all of the different columns. Okay, so let's take a look at what is provided in here. We've got a department name. We've got a corresponding department ID. So like we said, we were going to search for the Department of Agriculture, and we already knew that department ID was 1200. That's how we know that what we're searching for is what we were searching for. Total actions so far in 2024, there have been 23,421 total actions, totaling a large number of dollars. I am horrible with reading numbers, if you have watched other um, other virtual programs where I have to recite numbers on screen, it usually doesn't bode very well, but we see that these are large numbers here. Total dollars, we see that total. Of those total dollars, actions from large businesses total 4,541. And we've got the corresponding dollars for those large businesses. Then we've got small business actions, which total 18,028, and a corresponding total from that. So what we're starting to see here, let's go back to what this report is called. This is the contractor type report. Okay, so after we've got the total actions and total dollars, we see that the first contractor type is a large business. So we are getting the total of large business actions with the corresponding dollar amounts, followed by another contractor type called small business actions. So these are contracts with small businesses. That's what are the terms of the contract are the action. Then, after we've got small business actions, we've got another contractor type called education. So these are the education related actions, education related contracts. After that, we've got historically Black college or university actions. After that, minority institution actions. So hopefully you're getting a sense for what is meant by contractor type here. And so if you are a business that has already gotten registered as a minority owned business or a women owned business or a small disadvantaged business, you probably have some familiarity with what a contractor type entails. We are not really getting into the MBE certification here, but it is relevant because in some cases when federal agencies are contracting, they do want to put those bids out and ensure that they are giving those opportunities to everyone, especially those businesses that are marked as disadvantaged businesses for various reasons, including being minority owned or being women owned. So we're seeing what those contractor type designations can kind of play out to look like. So we're getting more specific as we uh, move past the education actions. Then we get into the protected groups. So we've got what the government calls Indian tribe or indigenous tribe, federally recognized actions, which break down to Native Hawaiian, tribally owned, and then we get another section that totals all of the minority owned businesses. So we see here that there is a separation between indigenous and tribally owned uh, entities and then minority owned, as we see as they're broken out here. So we've got the total minority owned business actions, which break out to Asian Pacific American, Black American owned, Hispanic American owned, Native American owned. So let me back up there. What we're seeing here is the a difference in designations here as far as Indian tribe or indigenous tribe federally recognized and how that's broken out, and then Native American owned. We can take a look at the total actions corresponding to the dollars. This is a really great way if you're just curious about how um, different government agencies do business with different contractors. This is a great way to just kind of get a snapshot look based off of a certain period of time if you're trying to get those numbers really fast. All right. So after we look at the different protected groups, we can see that we've got hospital actions, and we can understand again, going back to what is an assistance listing and what does assistance mean when we're talking about the federal government? Again, the federal government does sometimes support uh, services, projects, um, and other goods for the public. So those include hospitals. Right. I'm going to stop there with the contractor type report. And again, this is back to the broader category of standard reports. We'll go back to standard reports here. And just to reiterate, the way that I'm able to access this is because I have created an account. I have told SAM.gov I want to access this data. So I've created an account and I've logged it. So you will need to create an account to do this. Another one that we'll take a look at here, we've got bundled and consolidated contracts by American Act, place of manufacture, which is that would be interesting to take a look at. But one that I'm caught my eye a little bit was the competition report. This one provides a summary level report as well as detailed drill downs based on statutory exceptions. So again, we see that description. We're going to run the same query, but this time we're running it over a competition report. So we're starting with January 1st, 2024 to present. And we are looking at the Department of Agriculture. Oh, that's cute. So, since the beginning of this year, we see that the Department of Agriculture, with Department ID 1200, has initiated or completed 22,582 actions. Of those actions, 19,041 have been completed. We've got the corresponding percentage there with the corresponding dollar amount. Of those 22,582 total actions, 3,538 have not been completed. We've got the corresponding percentage of not completed actions, corresponding dollar amount that has not been completed or competed, excuse me. And then the corresponding percentage of not competed dollars. So I know I was saying completed when I meant to say competed earlier. But what are we looking at here? What we're looking at are actions that are sent out by the Department of Agriculture to be fulfilled by different contractors. And some of those actions didn't have any competition, meaning they went to one bidder. So this gives us some information. It tells us that the Department of Agriculture, at least for this year, as far as the total actions that they have done, the vast majority of them have been in competition versus not. All right. This has a lot less columns than the previous report that we were looking at, as we were just looking at competition here. But yeah, this can give you an idea if you are a business owner who wants to do business with the federal agency of the Department of Agriculture. It gives you an idea of what type of competition exists currently, or at least since January 1st of this year. All right. Go back to where we were. And at this point, I am going to take it back to our presentation. Thank you for sticking with me if you've been here the entire time. So, to kind of close out our time today, I have compiled a list of useful links and resources for you to kind of explore further. We've got SAM.gov contract opportunities that provides more information about the available contract opportunities and how to understand them. Then we've got contract data learning resources also provided by SAM.gov. And let me just back up. Oh, I do not think my screen is actually sharing, so apologies for that. Let's back up again. Now you can see my screen. I have compiled a list of useful links and resources that are all available through SAM.gov. Um, these are resources, links to help you learn more about how to use SAM.gov and what you can use the information that you find in SAM.gov for. I want to point you to the bottom two links here. Um, these are useful links that will help you if you're stuck. Uh, there is direct help from the Federal Service Desk, also known as FSD. Um, and so the Federal Service Desk actually, it provides assistance for different federal websites, especially SAM.gov. So take a look at that if you are looking for more in-depth uh, information or have some confusion about certain terms. And underneath that is a link to the self-guided help portal that is also available through the Federal Service Desk knowledge base. And I want to close this out with a few more localized resources here. So anybody who's registered, you're going to get the PowerPoint presentation here. But we will make this available digitally and eventually get it on the Kansas City Public Library website. But these additional resources are available locally, as I said. The first one here listed is KC BizCare, who does all kinds of hands-on help with getting your business registered locally. Provided here is the business certifications guide. So this is to help you understand what you need to have in place to get specific business certification so that you can do business with local government. Underneath that, we've got a link to Kansas City, Missouri's disadvantaged, minority, women, small business or business enterprise, Section 3 SLBE management system. This is for vendors to take a look at what the opportunities are that are available. Then, as far as getting certified as a minority-owned or women-owned business, MBE or WBE, the Office of Equal Opportunity in Kansas City has a certification program and a lot of additional resources to help you through that process. And then as far as anything else, maybe you are not ready to get your business registered as a minority owned, disadvantaged small business or women owned business or any other minority designation. Maybe you are seeking assistance with the steps it takes to even get registered as an LLC. That is something I can help you with. I can also help with getting things more organized for a small or a business plan if you are looking for potential loans or just to get organized as a business owner. There are also additional resources at the library through the digital catalog that will help with marketing and competitive research. So I am available for all of that kind of help, and I can do the best that I can as far as pointing you in the right direction to get more hands-on assistance with getting certified. But if you are actually looking at any of these federal databases, that is also something that we can take a look at together. So with all of that, I want to thank you, anybody who is watching this virtually. Uh, I want to thank you for your time and your engagement today. This is a new type of series that we're doing here through the library, just for the public to be more aware of the federal databases that are available to you because you do pay taxes uh, in the US. So this was putting your tax dollars to work, federal contract information, and there will be more to come. Thank you.